Right. So this is about job readiness program in context to the one which I have already explained. This is about the job readiness program in context to the agile environment, because most of the people are looking to transform their career in the field of agile now and then. So from other profiles, either you may be from a business analyst profile or something like we are transforming our profiles to the agile environment. In this process of understanding about agile, being a career transformation professionals, we must be knowing about how this transformation should be taken place and what are the required skill sets that are to be acquired to make ourselves job ready. Because this is completely practical scenario based understanding required for many people, because most of the people, as in when I see in my coaching career for a very long time, people have a theory knowledge, right? So they know about the Scrum, they know about Scrum framework, they know about Scrum ceremonies, Agile value systems, etc. All that. So that is not something sufficient for anyone to acquire or to get into the job, because there are some practical scenarios we need to understand. There are some practical scenarios we need to learn so that we will become job ready. Okay, this is not something that you will be learning by theory, listening the theory or something like. Two way of approaches we have. One is about the practical way of understanding how it works functionally. For example, you want to know about how to build capacity for a team, right? So how the capacity building process will be taken place. Or else you want to calculate the velocity of the team, right? So how many more sprints that we require and how many story points that are needed for you to update in the next coming time, right? So you want to know about all this. This is something which an individual should learn practically, because it's not something by theory you will not be knowing about anything, because case to case in industry different requirements, based on the requirement this processes and all everything, and how you are going to deal with it, what kind of solution you have given, depends on the particular situation, will be varied from one to another. In this process, it is always important for people to learn practical understanding. That is one thing, right? So as far as the job readiness program am I conducting in the field of agile environment, especially either for a product owner role, or it can be a scrum master role, or it can be a scrum developer, or it can be a agile business analyst roles and all. It's always important for us to have a practical knowledge. This is one thing. Second is scenario based learning is important, because understanding different scenarios, because let's say a customer came to us where customer want you to develop the project wherein there are some requirements which was given in a form of epics and user stories by the product owner, for example. So being into agile team, we should understand what practical goal and vision a customer wants to achieve and how soon they wants to achieve. So first of all, that we need to know. So based on that, what are the action items that are to be addressed in the beginning? This is something which you have to be known prior. So that is something which we have to be known first. So based on that, we'll come to know what kind of expectation customer has. Sometimes customer is changing in requirements in between, because their goal, as far as the short-term goal is concerned, might be changed. So they may expect some kind of changes to be happen in between. So scenario-based learning, because all the scenarios are different in industry, and how you are dealing that scenario and what kind of solution you have provided differs from person to person. How we have seen the problem and what solution we have given, that is entirely different. So scenario based learning is important. So as far as the job readiness program is concerned, as in when I am conducting, as I already stated earlier, repeating the same two things. One is about the practical understanding, how practically this can be implemented. For example, scrum ceremonies, right? So what are the scrum artifacts, product backlog refinement, at the same time we know about the release planning, we know about minimum viable product, right? So how to define minimum viable product? People know about MVP, some people, right? So but they may not be having an idea how to define MVP and what are the characteristics that are required to create an MVP, and what are the elements that are to be taken into consideration. So these are the practical things which people don't know. When you're going for an interview or when you have joined a job, let's say that you got an opportunity, fortunately, right? So you succeeded in your interview, you got a job. But when you are going to an industry, people don't spoon feed us, you know that, right? So they will give you an assignment where they'll give you the deadlines which you have to be addressed. So this is where many people uh, find difficulty, right? So to understand, first of all, to adjust and understand to the present situation itself will be a challenge to them. So once they have adjusted, how to deal with it, right? So how to complete a particular task within the specific timelines. That is even important in the field of agile. If I'm giving 2 hours of time, for example, it has to be completed in 2 hours. My mind as well as my team should be trained in such a way the work has to be completed effectively within the 2 hours of time. That's how generally agile works. That's what generally agile speaks also. That is something which we have to inculcate. That must be a habit within ourselves to do. Either you may be a product owner role or a scrum master or a developer or an agile business analyst. This is something which you have to acquire. Then it is more effective for you when you are going for job or you're attending for interview and all, so that people will understand what are the different scenarios we have, how to address those scenarios, what kind of questions that we come across, because they'll ask you the questions which are in the live environment, which you have to address it, right? So if you say about, I know scrum ceremonies, right? So I know about effort planning, not that. So how you have defined it? Let's say, for example, there were one more thing. Let's say there were 5 people who are in your team. So 5 people are working on the team where regularly they are attending the meetings, but all of a sudden 2 people have taken leave for so and so reason. How you are going to compensate the rest of the work? Because you cannot simply halt that work which they are supposed to do, right? So that has to be assigned to some other person. Your team should have the team spirit, right? So the teamwork, team coordination is something required. How this are we addressing? Right? What kind of questions customer ask you by end of the day, particular day? In the evening we have a call with the customer, right? So customer may ask you, what is that something we have done today so far, right? So what were the tasks you guys have taken and what is completed? 100%, sometimes the work complete, sometimes due to the technical difficulties it is not completed. How you are addressing this and how you are explaining this and how you are convincing it? So these are something essentially required for a person who are attending for an interview or ready for a job, especially in the field of agile environment. Again, I'm saying either it can be of any other role. This is what something which I'm explaining. So for that first detailed understanding over the agile planning process, the one which I'm showing you, you must be knowing about what are the different steps, something like product vision, scope, right? So building product roadmap, create release planning, right? So this is all something you must be knowing. At the same time, you must be knowing about what are the different scrum ceremonies we have. Whether it can be sprint planning, it can be daily sprint, daily scrum, it can be sprint review, it can be retrospection, and how this can be implemented. It's not only about knowing about sprint planning, how to do the sprint planning, right? What are the action items that are to be taken to do the sprint planning? Is there anything that we have to be planned before we are going to start sprint planning? Is it anything something we have to be planned before? Yes. Then how this can be done, right? So how you have to identify the tasks? Is it something you are taking as a user story or a task? How is it different? If it is a user story, on what basis effort estimation will be calculated? If it is a task, on what basis? These are something understandable for a person by taking some project or a case study. If you're learning, so that you get some more confidence, so when you are attending for a job, so that confidently you can to an extent possible, right? So to an extent possibly you can address the real time challenges and scenarios, and it will be more it gives a motivational factor for anyone to address with deal with. So this is what generally the job readiness program is all about, especially in the field of agile. Uh, do contact for more details into the following details will be posted in below to this video. Do contact if you have any questions in this regard. Thank you.